for the last time in a while, boil a pot, take a seat by the hearth, and enjoy a fine brew. With whom?
It's the Journeyman Questers.
The Journeyman who?
The Silver Shifter, the Journeyman Questers.
The Knights of Decorum.
The Platinum Fisters.
So weirdly, there's other music in the background, but there's nothing playing. It did this before.
I'm just hearing the Plinky Plonky one.
Yeah, they're whatever they have, however they play music, their little media player on.
It's weird, yeah. It's certainly weird.
It's a bit janky.
Welcome to the epilogue, or the extension final epilogue of the Gypsies of Fortune and their endeavours. We started this a little bit last time. The god of games was reforged, was brought together once more, and the culmination of multiple campaigns have sort of interlinked and come to a close for now. Perhaps one day we will revisit this world for some one-shots or even some campaigns. Who knows? Can you guys hear the rain music in the background?
No rain music, just music.
I can hear sort of
so
strings.
I'm not playing anything, but it is just playing. But you know what? It's quite good. So we're going to go with it.
It's atmospheric.
It's quite atmospheric and soft. I don't know where Josh is, but I imagine he will be grabbing his dinner. Last time, the God of Games was reforged back together in the most epic and climactic finale that anyone could wish for. And the Gypsies of Fortune were near torn apart, both physically and mentally, by the ritual storm on the Shattered Tower. And it was there, on this Shattered Tower, that their memories were revisited. Their memories of things past in this campaign. Things of beauty, things of wonder, things of luck and chance, things of failure and comedy, things of death. Many things were brought up. And in the end, the final rolls were much closer than the Gypsies maybe would have wanted. I rolled 2 natural 20s, which I was slightly scared about, but I stuck to my guns. In my head, I was like, do I fudge this because it would fuck it up so bad? And I was like, there's no way. You just can't. You can't do it.
Hell no. It's got to be.
No matter how much you want to as a DM, you just have to let it fly. I think maybe if you're a new DM and you can't balance things very well at the beginning, I think at that point it is fine to fudge stuff to make it fun. But at this point, I hold myself to an accountable standard where if I fucked up, then it's fucked up, and I just have to deal with it. And although the odds were in your favour, they may have not been had you not destroyed the reliquaries before.
Like the boss stood outside the point of no return boss door.
Yeah.
The very last moment we could have done it. Amazing.
Many alternatives could have happened through this campaign. Many different routes, many different paths. The Gypsies planned their own destinies rather than necessarily listening to some of the destinies that were put in there to begin with. And you did your own thing entirely, causing others to become part of the destiny and help you in your endeavours. And with the wishes fulfilled and the various parts of your the threads still out there a lot of them resolved. We look towards the battle and what is to come of it. As one of your wishes, Dutch's wish, was that he wished to have the power to end the conflict. And so he was granted this. And as you all stood atop this shattered tower, Dutch, in a sort of stream of divine and arcane light, took off, almost like a meteor of sort of iridescence, slamming down into the center of the Shivra. You all felt this same energy begin to course through you, the energy of Dutch's wish empowering you all. And you all joined the fight and the fray. Even with the essence and soul of Heinrich, the Shadow Lich, consumed into the rituals part of the sacrifice, as well as countless thousands of Varamarkian and elsewhere souls that were also required for this ritual in order to bring back this this god. You look down as you soar into this battle, and even with Heinrich dead, the Shivra are still active. But they seem to be less responsive. They were created by the use of some of the stones. The life stone and the death stone together allowed the Lich to enhance his undead capabilities and create life, create arcane life. And over the past hundreds of years, he was able to create these Shivra creatures. Although they have no master, they still have souls. The souls of people captured and forced into these birthed bodies of flesh and bone. And with every punch of Dutch's fists, you can see these souls leave the Shivra's body. And perhaps finally able to move on to somewhere else. Your mind takes you back to standing aloft Zaizus' tower, where the Sky Stone once rested, and Dylan drawing a shadow blade, cutting through it, releasing souls from the inside of this corrupted stone. Clearly the Lich had been doing similar things with the others that he was trying to use and harness. And as you fight on, eventually the tide begins to turn, with the 5 heroes, the Gypsies of Fortune, with the power and the ability to destroy these Shivra entirely. Godlike powers that you're given for this short time. Each of you coursing, flying through, cutting, destroying in your wake. Summoning great magics down upon these Shivra. And although it is violent, it was also calming as the Shivra begin to crumble and flee. And the peoples, the free peoples of the world, begin a cheer. Time moves on for the Gypsies and the peoples of this realm. And a great era begins. An era that could have otherwise been a calamity. I will start from the very beginning of my document, heading through all of the different NPCs that I could muster. If you can think, by the time I get to the end, if you can think of any other people that I haven't mentioned, there were a bunch, but a lot of them were kind of so unnecessary that I didn't put them in, or you probably wouldn't remember who they were. But I've put in some that you probably are like, who's that? For fun. If you can think of some others that clearly should have been in the list and aren't, then I will, I don't know, give you some kind of bonus for the next campaign. Who knows? We start with the Children of Fate. Or at least the Key brothers. Commander and Mayor Fleet Key suffered a grievous wound at the final battle. However, he survived and rallied the forces of good. He continues as Mayor of Ingmiri, watching over the denizens of the Great Lake. But he could have been forever plagued by the knowledge that his brother was lost to evil. However, Elgrin Key, Druid of the Sight, was wished out of his devil's contract. The only way, or one of the very few ways, to null devil's contracts. And as such, returned from wherever he was back into his mortal form to walk the world and to see the future. Elgrin continued as Druid of the Sight, watching over Ingmiri, aiding Zook with the druids, the young druids that are slowly blossoming, and now, you know, there's essentially a colony of druids living in Ingmiri, keeping the peace between the industry of the town and the natural beauty of the Ashlian Mountains surrounding. Both are seemingly forever changed by what happened. And as is their mother, Telluraki. Wheelchair-bound, she lives out her days in relative solitude in Ingmiri's Crimson Keep, wandering the halls, forever changed by the impacts of Carmoon's boons. But nevertheless, the three of them are reunited, and have been for some time since you're away in the Fae. And under their watchful eye, Ingmiri prospers. It was already the beacon of hope and diversity, and unburdened and unbridled from prejudice, as it was those rumours so many years ago when you originally headed to this place. But it becomes a bastion of this. Over the years, growing larger and larger. Already, in the time that you spent away, it had grown. We now course across, flying towards the Bell Wood, swooping down and into a small glade where a small hut in the centre with some wispy smoke sits, to the Druid Grove, where choke, maple, willow and twiglet grow old and ancient beyond the humanoids. They see Ingmiri rise to great wondrous heights. Georian, the topaz dragon, returned to his mother Gullion after the battle, surviving. Just so you know, I rolled for everyone. And because of your wish, Dutch, I changed it and I went back and I rolled with advantage.
Nice.
Because I had done all this already, and then I changed it. He returns to his mother Gullion of the Earthen Deeps to live out his life underground, occasionally visiting the Grove and whispering of the strange things that happen in the deeps. It seems that he had had enough of the world above ground, claiming it is far too cold and far too hot. The Hunters Guild, Arabella and Jin and Fang fought tirelessly in the final battle and survived, and went on to live out a pleasant life in Ingmiri, bearing many children and raising them with tales of adventure, hardship and wonder. One of those children would be named Aaron, after its heroic and courageous grandfather. The Miriau. Waylon died from his ailments shortly after the battle. Finally at peace. A day of celebration is held every year in his honour, and a statue of him was constructed in the fountain of the Miriau. The depiction is extremely accurate of his moods. Silas, too, survived the final battle, along with Gaze. She vows to seek out her patron before Richter informs her that the patron is free. And with that, they plan to head to the Astral Sea to find their patron and reconnect with them and see what their patron, now that's free, can both offer them as they find they are bursting with power, as well as what their patron wishes of them for these boons. She also, we went through sort of a bit of this, travels to her homeland without you and without Yunin. She decides to go on her own to do some soul searching. Yunin Grey, your brother, he too survived the last battle, barely. Occasionally, he scries and watches his father, if only to check on him for a distance. However, he tells no one of this. Watchmaster Rowan, his daughter Hazel is now mainly in charge. Ben the Guard, witness to Dutch's trial, died fighting in the Battle of the Plateau.
Good.
I think he vouched for you. Can't remember. Manfred the Murderer died of old age before the Battle of the Shattered Tower. He died while you were in the Fae. The half-elven Miller, Mr. Miller, collapsed one day working the fields. Franwyn Applebottom lived out a happy life in Ingmiri, starting up the first hospital with Malachus. We now soar across from the Miriau towards the high peaks and towers of the Crimson Keep, where Kunda Kundrakar, originally one of the Dukes of Thaldarau, lived to see many, many more years, helped up by his machinations until eventually his body gave up on him. He saw over the construction of many different things in Ingmiri, seeing over the mines, as well as lifting Ingmiri into a sort of new age of technology. Anchor carried the banner high over the battlefield, raising morale and turning the tide. Anchor continued to live the life of a free person, happy and unburdened, yet the secrets of his creation are still unknown to those about him. We saw through Ingmiri towards a dishevelled, squat, repaired, smashed, and repaired again Fortune's Rest, where Varian, son of Vadron, avenged his father's death and satiated the hatred that he had of the Shivra. And as a dragon transformed, he tore the plateau asunder and helped turn the tide. He went on to love the quiet life of a pub landlord and prays often to his Lord and Saviour Bahamut, and sometimes his ring burns. I added an extra bit, which was occasionally travels to the Varamark, although he is very sheepish about why he does so, and you believe perhaps he's seeing Mr. Icebreaker, or perhaps he's meeting with your sister. You are unsure. Grim works tirelessly to keep Varian's pub afloat and functioning with little to no thanks. He does, however, find his elven body keeps him extremely well rested.
There may be a slight amendment to Grim's status as a barkeep.
Oh, well, then great. Yeah. We'll do those after.
Okay.
Meldek kept trading ale from the Varamark to Angmiri, but became old and alcoholic, and eventually one of those pub locals in the Fortune's Rest.
Oh.
We zoom over towards the hedge quarters, brilliant and shining and spotlessly clean. Nathir lived out the rest of his days tending to the group he had seen grow at the hedge quarters. Nathir worked well into his old age until one day he never awoke in the morning and no breakfast was prepared. A great feast was held in his honour. Nick Silverthread at the Crystal Pool worked at the Crystal Pool, atoning for his misdeeds and keeping the business running. However, he did burn the building down a few times over. Scars and Vargrain, the Brawling Boar, was much more successful than any other pub in Angmiri, and Scars and Vargrain made a lot of money, much to the annoyance of a certain dragon priest. The two short planks in, Oak, still strong in his old age, was unable to fight in the final battle, and so survived and became head of the Loggers' Union.
Hey.
Malachus's marvellous medicines. Malachus healed many injured in the Battle of the Plateau and went home to Angmiri to open the first Angmiri hospital with Applebottom, tending to the peoples until his old age, always challenging the nature of his appearance and bloodline. The Church of Ilmater. Priest Brenwall died and is buried at his church. That's all that's written. Stablemaster Taran. Stablemaster Taran died while you were in the Fae, but Stablemaster Taran's junior, his son, was as grumpy as his father, but made good business, and perhaps he wasn't quite as grumpy. We fly from Angmiri, and we head up into the Ashlian Peaks, where a great broken stump of a hollow tree, as big as a town, sits atop it, where the orcs of the peaks dwell. Shan, the one eye of Grumsh, still lives and guides her flock, ever watching. She sees many generations of orcs come and go. Lash, Dutch's once love interest, bore many children of different fathers. Yorick, the head hunter, died shortly after Aaron, but not before they had both become great friends and united the orcs and Angmiri.
Is that the guy that Kofin fought?
Yorick was the massive dude with the big... Yeah, Kofin fought him. Yeah. He was the chief, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was strapping on armor and Kofin was going to die.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I forgot about that.
That was great. A little help from my friends.
We soar down across the lakes towards an estuary in the lake, where a city sits across multiple islands in this estuary. We head to Bryn Shander. Rethgward and Piti indeed survived the last battle, drawing the sky fiends away from the army on the ground and the towers, along with Tiki and Giorian. As a champion of military tactics, she went on to pioneer the first regional militia to uphold the peace and the Great Lakes, using knowledge and resources from new friends in the Glinting Province and Varamark. It was named the Golden Feathers. House of Ravethorn. Jasper did indeed find Rufus's horse Justice, and rode down many Shivra in his wake. In the midst of battle, Jasper managed to save an old Minotaur from the spiked fist of a flesh colossus. Vaulting off of Justice and slamming his spear into the beast's exposed leg tendon, it collapsed down onto him. However, the Minotaur was there to leap them both aside and to safety. Jasper went on to helm the Golden Feathers, forever fighting injustice and changing those who had lost their way, much like he had long ago.
God damn, that's satisfying.
He doesn't know who that Minotaur was, but that was Aureus. So there were some crazy fucking rolls. So he rolled the nat 20, and Aureus rolled the nat 1, and so I cancelled them out. So Aureus would have died if it wasn't for Bravethorn.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
We head towards the Varamark, where deep in the forest of Ymir, the Foal do dwell. Gith Zerlash and his rangers most perished in the Battle of the Plateau, but Zerlash survived to eventually travel with Richter and Silas to his home of the Astral Sea once more. Lyndon Fiel, the paladin that you met in the Ymir Woods, that was originally the guy in charge of Fielstown, was torn asunder by many Shivra claws and teeth. Brynjolf, the Stein of the Steinfold, met an equally grisly fate by the hand of a Shivra beast. We fly further down across Fielstown and Barrowsborg towards Varamark City, where we see Tipple Timpkins, still somehow alive and clinging to power, although the main power now resides in Dawn's Blade. Tipple lived out the rest of his days gorging and drinking until he was overthrown by his own granddaughter. High Priest Ragvold threw himself from the cliffs when he learned of what the Vaughn had done with the Varamarkian people, and could not live with knowing he played a part in the occupation and allowing the gates to be opened. I think you guys never went to the Storm Tower in Varamark.
I don't think
It was the church. Mr. Gruely Icebreaker was murdered savagely in the midst of debauchery by wounds inflicted by a polished bastard sword.
What? Okay.
Intrigue.
Jorgen Doesmith. Jorgen Doesmith made a killing selling his pies and other pastries before he died of obesity. That's it. Died of obesity. Coral, the owner of Coral's Collections, and her giant son. Coral died a few years back, and her son sadly was captured by Vaughn, who transported him along with others to the Shattered Tower, where he was tortured and eventually became a giant flesh Shivra. Kelsmere Stormrunner lived out his days, the last of which, helping out people at the Rekia Armhouse. His relationship with his daughter just about working. Order of Dawn's Blade. Siegfried, Gore Marshal, survived the final battle, but she knew it had come very close. She suffered many wounds to save and protect others around her, and eventually was dragged from the battle, screaming, by Folletti, who saved her, essentially.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, this is the only reason she survived.
Nice.
She champions Dawn's Blade as the Gore Marshal, close in contact with a renewed friendship with the Church of the High Hunt. Kark smoked himself into an early grave. Caradrim survived the battle only to blow himself up a year later in what was described as a tragic black powder accident.
Oh.
Folletti, with renewed vigour, became the quartermaster, taking over from Roog's position. Olosh perished during the final battle to the hands of a school, not before giving the bastard a mortal blow with his hatchet. The Church of the High Hunt. Aureus barely survived the final battle and owes his thanks to Bravethorn. Aureus lived longer than anyone else in the church, seeing the rejuvenation and this new era come to pass. He almost felt like perhaps he's not needed anymore. And this both made him happy and sad. Chaplain Morans led the Church of the High Hunt to a great victory on the plateau.
I'm really sorry, guys. I've got to go, but I'll listen to it later.
No worries, ma'am.
Godspeed.
All right, see you
See you
later.
later.
Take care.
Where was I?
Hello.
Chaplain Morans led the battle. She remained as chaplain, and I've messed up here. I've put some. Hang on. She remained as chaplain, and I'm going to leave it there because you've got some bits in yours, Theo, right? You had the whole.
I did add some bits in, yeah. Well, I mean, I don't know how relevant it'll be to Moran's, but I think Dylan is living at the Church of the High Hunt with them. Yeah. So.
Okay. Hammond guarded the church and the red oak well into his old age. He was buried in the mountains north of the church. In his later years, he was visited by many merchants looking for refuge after the collapse of the empire. Supposedly he had been someone of note in the city, even though he had never visited nor understood the ways of trade. He sent them back on their way towards Bramuk City with a harsh boot.
Do you remember that, Aidan?
Say again.
It was Aidan.
Oh shit! Yeah.
You pretended to be
There's a lot
Hammond.
Hammond.
You pretended to be Hammond.
That's
Yeah.
why a bunch of
A trader.
people, when the empire collapse, came to the church being like, you're this trader guy, like, you can take us in.
Yeah. Yeah, a little parting gift for Hammond.
Blackwood, old and scholarly, taught the ways of the church to many recruits, some of which were even lycanthropes. Throst was lost in the final battle, and his body never recovered. Erin the Witch, the black-eyed girl, survived and went on to helm expeditions to collect and record lost knowledge from the Shattered Tower, until eventually she... Oh, I've misspelt that. It's auto-corrected. What's the word for not mutiny? When you...
Betrayal.
Like, no, it's the word for when you
Commandeering.
leave. It's auto-corrected to something fucked, because I obviously
Hello?
couldn't spell.
Exile, pariah.
When you, like, ditch the military, what's that called?
Deserting.
Going AWOL.
Deserting. Yeah. She deserted... Sorry, let me go back. Lost knowledge of the Shattered Tower. Until she deserted the Church of the High Hunt, and the knowledge was lost with her. We fly over the Great
Oh,
Lakes. Yes.
Quickly, whilst we were on the church, what happened to Bercy?
Bercy died. Bercy died with. Okay, so you know when you walked. Bercy's not there because Bercy died prior to this. So Bercy's in the RIP section, which is at the bottom.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So Bercy doesn't have an epilogue because Bercy was already dead. Bercy died.
In the forest, have you met?
No. What did I put this? There's no epilogue for him. But I probably should have
We
because
can
you
do it
never
in
found
the
out.
RIP.
No. So Bercy made his way back down through the forest until he got to. Do you remember there was the pass that you guys went through?
Yeah.
He got to the pass and could see the church, and then was attacked by Shivra on the pass, like right at that point. And there was a bit where you guys went, and you basically there could have been a Shivra encounter there, but you guys didn't. We either didn't roll, or I didn't roll for it to happen, or maybe like it was like you don't need a combat encounter right now. We're just going to get to the forest. So that encounter was basically he had that encounter, but it was just him. So he was savagely killed by Shivra on the pass. We head towards the Empire and to the Glinting Province. In the years to pass, the Empire fell. It had already receded over tens of years, and in the time you spent in the Fae, it had receded more, and the Glinting Province had once more become its own. But eventually the Empire would entirely fall in the years to come. Solreach, Celeste Suncrest, Christoph Suncrest, and son, young Ruthus Suncrest, lived out a happy life of prosperity and peace in the Glinting Province until young Rufus became of age and went off to fight in Gurkle, where he became known as the Glinting Fury. Salvir Quell died uneventfully in poverty during the fall of the Empire of the Moon. You might not remember Salvir, but Salavir. Salavir was the oh no, I've got them the wrong way around. That's Yelberus. There was Yelberus Quell and Salvir Quell. There's a few Quells. He was the elven ambassador that you first spoke to in Emiri, but he wasn't the same ambassador that was in Solreach. He was the other guy. He was one of the Quells. He died badly. Viscount Heath Elwyn. Heath worked as an advisor to Celeste for many years before retiring to his tour and making wine. Yashar Blackfriar survived the final battle and continued to support her sister and maintained military control of the borders of the province as the Empire fell. Wulf married with Yashar and became part of the Blackfriar household. Byron Shade of the Witch Vault was eaten alive by a bag of bones. Strognor Redspire crafted many suits of armour, but none as mighty as the helm and plate he had made for Richter all those years ago.
Did the fact that plate was worn in a world-saving battle affect his business? Was it good marketing?
I imagine so. If you kept saying his name, I think probably.
Yeah.
White Rock. Archivist Priest Kesh still waits for news of a letter to be delivered by Richter some 30 years later. Mr. Cranberry and Sir Londis Mulberry fought as rivals over pricing in their shops until they put their differences aside and became lovers.
Hey. Business and pleasure.
We continue to fly through the Glinting Province towards the Eocene. Thiazi, Theanor, Belamkander, and their child and Archdruid of Fire, Theander. Thiazi survived the final battle, and so he returned to his family of the Archdruids. They watched over the Aeacene through a time of peace the world has never known. The Woodwodes, Queen Stem, reigned supreme over Crantaise, Root Town, for eons to come. Never again would she cage an Archdruid, that's for sure, even if it was for their own good. The Woodwodes prospered much, and much sap liquor was had. Lord Tiki, King of Birds, suffered major casualties during the last battle. However, he survived and made it back to the Aeacene to live out a long life and care for the birds of the wood. The kobolds, Duke, Zork and Ruzzo, are long gone.
Oh, no, the kobold
They were
union.
long gone during while you were away with the Fae. However, their lineage lives on, and so does the kingdom of kobolds in the Aeacene. They worship their god Richter, and now are a cult blight on the forest. Adventurers beware.
Not what Richter wanted for them, but okay.
The Orc family. Remind me of the Orc's name again. You wrote it down before.
Sabsu is the boy. Durzen is the man, and Vigor, I think, is the mum.
Sabzu, once his parents had died, became a druid at High Canopy and used his natural affinity with natural magic to aid the forest, guided by the other druids until he became the head ritualist. Gartora ate many centaurs in his time. That was one of the giant crocodiles. Queever retreated to the caves in the north, forever plotting to eat the tasty gnome that it had once spied in High Canopy. Goblins, Gleek, Vrit, Duck, Smirt, and Clax the Bad and the Awful the Seventh pillaged and raped. No more, and instead settled into the west in an abandoned town. Pernima, once Batbire had passed on, Pernima made her way back to the church, where she was welcomed with open arms, even by Blackwood. Peachskin, Furfern, and Pineskin, much like the trees in the Druid Grove, grew ancient and beautiful until falling and renewing the soil. Gomaku led the forest orcs in many victories against the elves, especially after not coming to aid in the Battle of Cinderhelm. Tororo, the giant turtle, eats grass and lives on still. Prince Teodmar Trislin of Ilmisoy Barkholm was killed in the violence when Barkholm ousted their royalty, trampled by his own people. Dorkan of the Thistle and Flora of the Pool were instrumental in the prince's downfall and now sit high up in the council that has formed since. Eladar of the Spear escaped and went west to Angmiri in search of an old friend. Numbra Berin and Luthra Umtrau travelled to and fro from the Aeacene to Angmiri to visit the Grove and family, and they started a new burrow in the woods. The Burrow Mother, now freed from imprisonment, returned to High Canopy once more and lived out her days as a simple burrow mother to the new grove, forever changed by her imprisonment and the way in which she was made to use that which she wanted to protect. I've put Cinder here with a question mark next to it because it's not up to me, it's up to Rupert. What happens to Cinder?
I imagine Cinder's cared for by Theander, and kept under close eye in a very flammable forest for a time, probably within the power of High Canopy, but taken to Cinder Helm and around the forest to sort of learn about it, and eventually I think the Archdruids would open up a portal to the Fire Realm using Cinder, and Zook would return at that point. And after many sad goodbyes, they would pass. Well, they wouldn't pass Cinder. Cinder is a full-grown fire elemental, and he would sort of bow majestically and slip off as the heat fades into the Fire Realm, coursing across the landscape towards a huge volcano in the distance.
We head flying across the air scene towards the remnants of where Cinderhelm once stood. Kifrig, the Overseer, bled out in an alley in White Rock, trying to mug someone. Shamdra, Kreth, and Yorna, the girl from White Rock, lived a happy life in Ngmiri and started a metal band called the Helms of Cinder. Do you guys remember those people?
No.
I remember literally overhearing them talking on a cart out of White Rock towards Cinderhelm.
So at the end of the battle, when you were helping the people escape, there was like a dude who was clearly worked for he was a guy who worked in Cinderhelm, and he had a bunch of like his workers with him, and one of them was a total knob end. That was Kifrig the Overseer, and you guys found out he was like an asshole. And I remember like Varian just lost it at him, and I think Dylan gave one of the half elf guys, it was Kreth, gave him like a dagger and said like, should just in case you need to protect yourself. They were taken by the orcs to like safety and stuff. Anyway, they were some of the people you took from High Canopy through the tree when you were like bringing the refugees through. Feywild, Spera Suncrest, Queen of the Winter Court, ruled the winter with an icy resolve, known only to the people of the Fey as a harsh ruler. But once her mum had passed, Spera warmed and eventually travelled the Fey and beyond, seeking out her past and a way to get back to the material realm once more. I now have Valentine's bit, which James has written for us to listen to.
Yeah.
Valentine played his lute, the notes of his tune conjuring forth delightful lights, colours, and dragonflies that zipped over the heads of the Queen's guests. A few pixies watched giggling, but most simply ignored him. The noise of the ball was distracting. Valentine hated it. Is this what he was to be now? A glorified party clown? A dancing monkey for the Queen's guests? He couldn't even perform properly in this circus. He hid a few discordant notes, the illusions flickering out of focus for a brief moment. No one noticed. All of them too absorbed in their own petty plots, gossips and squabbles. The fools. He gave up, and swinging his lute over his back, he slipped through the crowd towards the throne. The ball was vast. Pixies, centaurs, dryads, and all manner of fey folk from across the wild had come at the Queen's invite. It was strange to admit that he felt overwhelmed. Once Valentine would have delighted in the Cotley intrigue, the eavesdropping, the scandals. He had quested so hard to return to the life of intoxication and luxury. Now he had found it tiresome, gaudy. What had changed, he wondered. Frustrated, he shoved past a crowd of gnomes, laughing at some joke, and made his way up their steps to the Queen's circle. Gossamer veils as thin as spiderweb surrounded her. Sparrow looked every inch a queen. "A most delightful ball, your majesty," a stately-looking river troll bowed low before her. "Simply delightful. And such an inspiring theme, too. Spring from winter. Quite genius." Valentine rolled his eyes. Sparrow nodded and sent her guest away with a few polite words. Once alone, she sat back in her chair and sighed, waving Valentine over. "I trust you are behaving yourself," she said, arching an eyebrow. "Of course, my queen." She hesitated for a moment before nodding. She still doesn't trust me, Valentine thought bitterly. Will she ever, after what I put her through? "If I may," Sparrow began. "You seem unhappy, Valentine." Valentine was taken aback. "Is it so obvious?" Sparrow cracked a wry smile. "For a talented illusionist, there are some things you're terrible at hiding, Valentine. Now tell me, my Valentine, why this upset on you today of all days?" Valentine looked out across the sea of feyfolk. The revelry seemed too distant. "I suppose I miss my old adventures," he found himself saying. "I miss the others." "I miss them too," Sparrow confessed quietly. "We should go see them. See if they succeeded on their quest." A panic crept over Valentine as he added, Perhaps they need our help." "No," Sparrow said firmly. "We have helped enough. And besides," she rested a gentle hand on Valentine's shoulder, "someone has to stay behind to tell the story." They sat in silence for a while, watching the party unfold. "Play me something," Sparrow said finally. I'm not on form today, my lady," Valentine sighed. "All the old favourite songs elude me." "Then play me something new, something to remember." He hesitated, resting his fingers on the strings. "Okay, this is the tale of the Journeyman Questers," he began, and just like that, the music played.
Oh, wow.
Isn't that fucking good?
Very well done, James.
Very well done, Jade.
Chills.
Who else have we got? Honeydrop the Badger and his family vowed they would one day kill the shape-shifting scourge. Right, let's rinse through the last bits. So Thaldaral, Skosara and Yildara became fat and lazy after losing the arena many years before, and eventually died of simultaneous heart attacks. Homedeth Coldrock continued to advise the prince at Thaldaral until his sad demise when dying in a collapsed tunnel while visiting his prosperous mithril mines. Prince Bengrad, much unliked by his people, he did not do so well as king once his mother had perished. Killed by Zanrus Deret, the Drow ambassador, he figured out a way to reanimate Bengrad so he was literally and physically a puppet. Deldora, Varabella Bronzerock, Dudmood Drakejaw, and Narakura Flatfall. More and more dwarves left Thaldaral to be above ground by the Great Lakes, and Varabella saw over them in a peaceful age of plenty and trade with the other lake towns. Those were the people that, like, you escaped to the tower when all the Shivra were chasing you. Xanthar, Randala, biding her time, she eventually rose to prominence during the collapse of the Empire. And as Xanthar fell, the gang stepped in to claim the city. Through clever guile and cunning and intellect, she now sits as one of the leading council of the 12 Syndicate. Numbers works numbers as Randala's right hand. Ganon sadly was cut down by the city guard during the collapse. As he bled out, he laughed, a smile on his face.
It went out the way he wanted.
Kashmiri the Collector was found brutally squashed to the point of near unrecognition by a fiery fist.
Yes.
Armin Abedi stepped in to fill Balthazar's shoes after his death. However, the collapse of the Empire was quick to come, and he perished violently in the rebellion. I've put Bertrand, ? Because in my notes there was a Bertrand, but I have no idea who that was.
In
Xanthar.
Xanthar.
It was written on the same sheet as like loads of the other Xanthar notes, but I just think maybe I wrote it there as like a if I needed a name, but I have no idea. You can remember. Eldama also sits on the Council of 12 Syndicate. Now we've got some weird ones. The Shadowfell. Nightmare travelled the Dark
There's
Lens.
quite a few people from. Are you going back to some people from?
Who else have I missed in Xanthar?
Who the wizard who helped us out?
Oh, so yeah, they're in the RIP section. Sorry, there's an RIP section.
Oh, of course. Okay, yeah, there's
Because
probably some RIP. Yeah,
basically,
yeah.
like all the people that died pre the end of this, as in like these are all the people that were alive
Still.
at the end of the campaign still. Whereas
Yeah.
Fandel had, if you remember,
Fandel.
you knew he was dead because he had a grave in Angmiri.
Oh, of course.
Yeah, because he was old and you spent 30 years in the Fae, so
Is he human?
he was human, yeah. The Shadowfell. Nightmare travelled the Dark Lands back to its master. A story for another day. That was the horse that you freed in the Shadowfell.
Did we try to like ride it or something? Or capture it?
Zook was like, I'm going to talk with it. And it was like, thank you for freeing me. And it just like blinked across the gorge and just like rode away. It was like, now I'm free.
So horrified.
Oh my god, I can write that back. I can write that into my.
Yeah, you
epilogue.
should.
I literally have a spell I can cast, which is
Amazing.
directly relates to spirit horses.
Yezamari Mer Akebi sails the astral sea, still in search of his golden Antikythera mechanism, stolen by a beholder and 2 humans. That was the weird one-shot we did, Victor.
Yeah, that was where I got my powers back.
Ukliktalokla is chained no more,
Yes.
and now free, wishes to meet with its patrons for a special quest.
Knowledge, mommy, gear. Yeah.
Solaris went on to become an angel in the court of the divine.
Who's that?
She became a planar, is what they're called.
Who's
Solaris
this?
is Celeste's daughter.
Oh, okay. I thought so. Yeah.
Bren's chosen. Valdar and Vivoy Raindrifter perished in the battle of the plateau. They were the 2 big school guys. Malik was consumed. Oh, this is like kind of the beginning of the RIP section. Malik was consumed and trapped within the Umbral Quiver, which was then given, or at least in the control of the God of Games. Vishik was disintegrated by his master and therefore sent back to his original dwelling on the 2nd layer of Hell, where Dispater, the Archdruid of that layer, his boss, made him suffer for all eternity, becoming the lowest of the low demons. There's a demon, I can't remember what it's called. It's like a sludge. That's what he became.
Yeah.
He became
Yeah,
the
yeah.
sludge. Because if you're really high up in Devil Court and you're killed by humans, on the material realm, you're demoted. He was demoted to the lowest rank, which is like an ooze, which just feels pain and just writhes about. And he's never, ever going to be risen. Because he betrayed his Archdevil. because they like backstabbed, Dispater.
I thought they were Arc Devils.
They were dukes. They were dukes of hell. Yeah.
They were dukes of hell under Dispater.
Under Dispater, they were like Dispater's right-hand dudes, and they betrayed them to go to the material realm and basically do this shadow shit with the Shadow Lich. And so they fear death, because if they die, they go back to Dispater, and Dispater's like, so you return to hell. And then he just fucking demoted them, demoted Vishik straight down to like the most lesser demon possible, where he will be for all eternity, like in hell, writhing about in pain.
Hell yeah.
That's some Hellraiser shit.
Some
right
bad
there.
shit. Oshkar Silvermark.
Yes, this we've been waiting for. Yeah.
Oshkar Silvermark, and all I've put next to it is a story for another time. Because that was one of the big unresolved things.
Oh wow.
I revealed to you that he was a beholder, because he was the tyrant.
Yeah.
But you guys didn't go to the Silver Tower, where you could have used the teleportation circle that was in there to go to him.
A bounty for gaze.
It was like a back door into finding him. It was like a last opportunity to follow that up. But
what happens when
invade
beholders...
Oshkar's back door?
What happens when beholders fight each other? Do they just stalk at each other and like deflect beams until one gets through?
Yeah, they just like. I imagine that they know their beams are gonna not work on each other, so they just literally brawl with their mouths and try and eat each other.
It's a big fight of conkers made of flesh.
It's just like if you've got a really like saggy sack and you just kind of like squat and they go like that.
Yeah.
Oh god.
Heinrich the Shadow Lich was consumed in the final ritual. Elderwick Grey, renewed with his magic and vigor, walks the earth once more. That is also a story for another time. The Sword of Nine Lives. Did you ever write anything, Aidan?
I actually didn't get around to that. No.
So that is also a story for another time.
Excellent.
Depending on, I was going to leave that entirely up to you as to what
I still
Kofin
may.
was doing.
Okay, I still may.
Now we've got the RIP section. So I just wrote down all the people I could think of that have died of import over the campaign. So we got Zyzus, Zazi, Zakai, King Pom. Fucking dicks out for King Pom, am I right? The Centaurs, Vord Willow Pass and Neff Elmwatch.
Oh yeah, the chess playing the Centaurs.
Ellis Emberwing.
Oh, the old Archdruid are there.
Sorcerer, Wesleyan Black Thunder, Shale the Monk, Hubreem of the Silver Rings, Yenlith Barkholm, and Finbar Limeleaf of the Silver Shifters.
So they properly died. They weren't.
Yenlith changed her ways. She was obviously she died in the battle.
Was she not revived, or was that?
No one revived her.
Oh, I
So, up
thought
to
that
you
was one of
guys.
the wishes, wasn't it?
No, the wish was to save those that. Oh, the wish. No, you're right. The wish was to save those that had died in the battle.
Yeah.
Then she is alive, and I will have to write a little thing for her at some point. Oh, and that means Blue Eyes Reuben's alive as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sandwich boy.
They can carry on the Seers fighting crime in the Glinting Province.
Is Blue Eyes Reuben who we first bumped into when they were burning a werewolf?
That's right. They were burning a girl. They were burning a werewolf girl.
We tried to get involved.
Yeah, we tried
Right.
to stop them. They weren't.
Is
happy.
it that town that the Kobold Nation moved to? No, the Goblin, sorry.
No, it's
It's not
Nightstone.
that one. Ah, of course. Of course.
Nah, the Orc traitor. Balturus the Beacon, the spirit beneath
The
thing.
Miriam.
Yeah, you killed him, so he was freed. Sheikh Abd El Qurna was the mummy, the fucking ark mummy that was in the temple that you guys didn't kill, but was killed by people, by expeditionary companies. Captain Tion.
Captain Flanagan.
He was the right-hand man of Rethguard and died in the Battle of Ungmiri. Bercy, there he is, Bercy Koth. Bjor Tolleson and Lady Timpkins, they were both hung. They were both part of the they were the oligarchs that were hung in the square in Varamark. The old Gore Marshal, Rug, Yelberus Quell died when the massive loom collapsed in Thingy, along with Malvo Blackfriar. Finenia Quell, Cardinal of the Lunar Gate, and Resquire Calcia, who was stuffed in a toilet.
That's the most botched cleanup job.
Yasquin, stabbed to death by Ganon, and Lears, drowned in the canal. Lord Byronian Balthazar of the Guild of the Midnight Mercers, Grand Inquisitor Wendelin, Guidon.
How did Wendelin die? Oh, we killed him.
We killed him in the labyrinth.
Oh, fuck yeah. Did he die? I thought he survived.
we killed him.
Wendelin fucking came up from the maze.
Yeah, but
he
I
fell
swear
back
we didn't finish
into
him
the
off.
fire, didn't he?
We I swear, I don't know. I can't remember.
I think we killed him, but there were still loads of Inquisitors operating.
We bolted out of there pretty quick.
I'm almost positive you guys absolutely fucking wrecked him in the first round. Do you remember he was trying to? You killed him, but it was you were unsure whether he was fully dead because he you killed him, you knocked him back through the flames, and he disappeared.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, he was fucking dead. He was super dead.
Okay. Crispy.
Where are we? Yeah, Grand Inquisitor Wendelin, Guidon of the Hedge Maze. Trevor Guidon.
Who the fuck was Guidon?
Guidon was the
Guidon, the
fucking
guy.
guy who was
That
trapped in the
memory.
maze. He was like,
Oh,
help
yeah.
me. Yeah. Guidon got killed by the Marrow Stalkers. The things that came. He got fucking
Oh, we
eaten.
tried to. We
course.
took him along.
I love
And he
how
got
he'd
mauled.
lived for such a long time
And
in
then
that
died.
maze, and then
And he
as
was-
soon as we turned up, the monsters found him
He was there like his whole life, and
Yeah.
we finally
just to warn us.
got there, and we were guiding him out, and
He was
died
there
at the last
100
moment.
years. Yeah. Yeah, he was being sustained by the nutrients of the maze. It was pretty weird. Lamb. Do you remember who Lamb was?
Ring a bell.
From the prostitute. Was that from the brothel?
Lamb was the guy who blew up the loom. He was the
Oh.
Yeah.
he was like the main right hand dude to what's her face to Talura. Yondus and Howard Suncrest. Dylan's mum, Madame Aloro. Just put in important people that died. Brennan the Boar, Stable Master Tarin, Griff, who worked for the Crows. It's an old one. That was the dude in your prequel one-shot, Theo.
Oh yeah, who we worked with.
You worked with, and he died in that fight with the Crows. Rinnick, Thander, the grumpy fucking hunter dude. Aaron and Nkong, fucking.
God bless.
Queen Lycia. Quaylen Timbers and
No.
and Wiggins Nigel
Yes.
and Ren Baron, Numbers sister, Nolks, Fandel of the Fifth Tower, and Waora Key. Those are all of the major deaths I could think about.
Memoriam.
What about the Loxodon inside the temple?
that was
Oh.
a side quest.
Yeah, Reggie.
What-
Also, I don't remember his name, the Loxodon.
What happened to the Rakshasa that we fought in the Miriam?
Oh yeah, the I forgot about the Rakshasa.
Surely that's a story for another time.
That could be. That
I
could
remember
be
thinking about
an
whether you
elaborate
meet him
tale.
again. So yeah, the Rakshasa. I can say the Rakshasa made its way to Xanthar because if you remember, it said it had business in the capital. So it eventually made its way to Xanthar for some purpose, and perhaps, or perhaps not. I was gonna bring the Rakshasa back in Xanthar, but it was very
Too
much
much.
like there's so much going on in Xanthar. It's not necessary, but it would have been kind of cool. I was gonna
Yeah.
have one of the people that you encountered as the Rakshasa.
Oh,
Like-
that would be cool.
Like, you know, the merchant dudes who you were like talking with. At one
Yeah.
point in my head, I was like, what if I made Lord Balthazar the Rakshasa? And I was like, that's
Oh,
too much. I was like, it's too coincidental. It's like, it's too silly.
oh, that could have been cool. Oh,
Yeah.
I-
Would have been cool to just see him walking through the street, just like give us a wink and then like disappear.
Yeah, I should have done something like that. I just, in the moment, you forget all of these
Yeah.
linked things from fucking years ago.
I need to roll a d20 quickly because I just remembered I used all of the charges from Staff of High Canopy. If I roll a 1, it turns into a normal stick forever.
That's right.
It's a 4.
Okay.
Okay.
Oof.
There you
Close.
go.
Close
Yeah.
though.
Oh, I forgot it did that. Yeah.
Yeah.
What about I've forgotten what her name is. Richter's sister. Did you say her?
Fricked.
Siegfried.
Yeah.
Yeah, she became Gore Marshal.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Nice.
And I'm really annoyed at myself that I can't quite remember his name. But so remember, it's now canon that Silas traveled back to her home country.
Yeah.
I like to think that's the name. I like to think that she used the Barnacle Brothers Trading Company ships founded by Captain Rigg in order to
Hell
get.
yeah. Hell yeah. 'Cause he can navigate the fucking oceans because he saw that.
He's
star
got the sea
chart.
people, conveying him there.
Yeah.
oh, Rig.
Captain Rigg.
Right. So you guys need to decide what you want. Or we did a bit, didn't we? We did sort of what some of you were going to do. Who wants to go first?
I'm sorry, I didn't quite know how long this was going to go, guys. I got to start dinner. I'm really sorry.
Oh, no worries.
Yeah.
Sorry about
I feel
that.
like
man.
we didn't do. I feel like we didn't do Richter last time, which is. Or did you do? No, you did a short one.
I did a short
Yeah, I
one.
think-
Yeah.
Basic.
I thought we
I
got round everyone sort of, but there were extra stuff that you wanted to do maybe.
I left
after.
mine a little bit portentous in the sense that Richter feels a stronger hunger for knowledge now, and sometimes finds that it obscures his natural morality.
Yeah,
As he
I like
strides
that
off
as
into a
an
future
idea.
that is unknown.
And Rufus did his. You started this new order.
Mm-hmm.
And did you do yours, Zook?
Yeah, sort of. Zook, he kind of co-founds the Wind Knights with Rufus, and it becomes this like order of like hedge knights to defend the natural way of things. But mostly he spends his time at the top of the mountain, looking into this new pool above Cinderhelm, just looking for dangers to the realm. threats
We
to the
chatted
realm.
about it, and we basically created the Minority Report of the Great Lake.
Oh, amazing!
We're on pre-crime.
Yeah.
That's fucking awesome. And then Dylan, did you do yours?
Yeah, I did my little wedding to Moran's.
To Moran's, yeah. Oh, that's why I left it blank. Yeah, of course.
I think he moves into the Church of the High Hunt to live with them, and he is sort of he takes on the role of a sort of kind of he's not a natural leader, but he's sort of given this responsibility, a bit like the first what is it, the first ranger in Game of Thrones sort of vibe, where he's sort of like sent off to like deal with like specific demonic problems, usually occasionally like obviously calling on the help of his allies to assist him, the Gypsies of Fortune,
and the wagon.
And the wagon. And also he gets. I feel like he has a good relationship with Kundra, and he like kits him out with like some of the new technologies that he's been working on. So I imagine he upgrades his bow for some firearms at some point. Yeah.
Nice.
And what did you want to happen with Malik's soul?
So, I think the god of games tasks him with destroying this demonic soul, but also sort of having to babysit it. And he babysits it in the form of it being some armor that he wears. And I think Malik is like constantly talking to him through this armor. It obviously gives him some boons as well. Maybe it actually helps him track other demons. I imagine that Rakshasa is someone on his sort of hit list.
Yeah.
So I think that's what
Very
goes
cool.
on with that.
We will leave it with then you're all doing various things, and then Zook and Ruthus, you are looking in the pool as your minority report like guardians, and you see a little vision in the pool. Richter, you feel the Seeker pierce into your mind, and you see this vision too. And Dylan, with your armor, and Malik, you also sense this same, and you have this same sort of premonition. You see.
Oh, fucking hell.
Blimey. Was that you, Josh?
It's like
Wow.
from the street.
That's a lot of things, man. God.
You see a third creature with backwards hands leap down off of the Mirial, and with a tiger's face begin stalking round back to the same point beneath the Mirial. And like Avengers, you all psychically link, and you head towards there for the next part of the adventure.
The hustle never ends.
You like all,
Gypsies assemble!
you like just imagine you're all in, like Dutch just comes and picks you all up in the flying
Yeah.
caravan, and then you're like like heading towards Amiri over the Great Lakes.
We definitely get into the caravan, and then Dutch is just there, lying on some pillows, ripping a bong.
Yeah.
And like, you know, we
Whoa.
specified that it had to be as big on the inside as the Mirial, but he is just in the foyer. Just set up a straw bed in the foyer and a bar. He hasn't explored the house. He
Oh my
doesn't
God,
have
I
to.
forgot you said it was going to be like that. Oh,
Yeah, it's gonna be like that spell, you know, where it's like a door and you go inside and it's a fucking
Yeah.
like.
Oh, that's hilarious.
Oh, me and Rupert were talking about it. We thought it should be kind of made out of wood woads and have wood woad servants inside.
Yes.
You can't get in unless you like a woodwode appears at the door and it's like "Meh, password," and like asks for the password.
Yeah.
And if you set it right, it'll,
just,
like, unlock the
melts
door.
out of the wood, and you
Yeah.
have to like tell it the password.
I wrote a load of stuff, potential ideas for the gypsy wagon, but maybe I'll post them on the chat.
Yeah, that
Just,
sounds great. That sounds great. Oh, guys,
Yeah.
that's it.
Amazing.
Oh,
Well
that was
done,
great.
everyone.
It was
What a
nice
time.
to chill back in
Yeah, round it off. Round it off. I like that it's not like it's over, because it's still it's still a world that exists that's continuing with like stuff. So yeah, maybe
Yeah.
we'll revisit. I think we'll do like we did that one shot where it was a level 20 like all stars one shot.
Uh-huh.
I think we'll have to do another all stars one shot. Maybe like an all stars PvP where you choose a character that you've played, any character you've played, and it's a PvP.
Yeah, there's a lot of like loose ends that you could just drop us in, be like you're at the doors to
Yeah.
fucking Oshkar's lair or
We
something.
could do that at some point. I think you guys are all.
I would love to do that. Yeah.
All level 20, by the way.
Hell yeah.
Nice.
All
I'm going to
stars.
update my character sheet
Yeah, do it.
right now.
Do it. All right, me and Josh have got to go as well because
Yeah.
we're playing D&D with James now.
Are you?
Yeah.
Oh, sick. Oh, enjoy.
Godspeed, gypsies.
All right.
Sure.
Cheers.
soon.
Speed, gypsies.
Godspeed.
And good luck.
Fare thee well.
Good luck,
Adieu.
gypsies of fortune.